Means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access the meeting via virtual means. Participants may access the meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting is being recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you've been recognized by the chair. We will confirm attendance of members and staff. Please respond with present if you are on the call. Ted Barker Hook.
Present.
Jim Cirillo.
Present.
Melissa.
Present.
And that is it for members. At this point, Matt may be joining us. And Ed may be joining us. They're not with us at the moment. And Janine will not be attending tonight. So for staff, Kim.
Present.
Anna.
Present.
And Joe Warzel with Lucas Environmental.
Present.
Okay, great. All right. So let's jump into work session items. The draft minutes for October 10th and the 24th. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? And are there any questions or comments? If I can get a motion to approve the minutes of October 10th and October 24th, 2023.
So moved.
So move. Second.
All right, and we'll do the roll call vote. Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. Hopkinton Trails Committee, 66 Fruit Street. This is an exemption request for a new hiking trail. Mr. Daushi, you want to give us a little background?
Yes, thank you. Okay, Chuck Dodgy in wearing two hats. One is the trail steward for HALT, responsible for this area, but also the Trails Committee requesting the town's authorization. The proposed trail shown on the map with yellow dots will be in addition to the Whitehall Brook Trail that was created approximately 3 years ago. Will follow the edge of the wetland along the Whitehall Brook wetland. It's essentially an extension of the Whitehall Brook Trail, which was designed to follow that wetland edge. Kim and I walked it. I've also walked it with Jane Maloney from the SVT, who co-hold the CR with HALT. Everybody from that side of things has approved it. So we would appreciate the commission's okay. Again, Kim and I walked it. It provides a fairly close-up view of a beaver lodge that is along the brook. In the layout, I have stayed above the upper. There's the lodge. Yeah, thank you, Kim. And that is not taken from the trail itself. That would be too close to the wetland. But you can see the lodge from the trail. The trail borders a long-standing beaver pond there. And then, yeah, you get an idea of the terrain that we're going through. It'll be clearing width
Okay. Yeah, this looks like a good addition, Mr. Dashi. So have you found that, these trails down at the Pratt property are fairly well used?
Actually, yes, although it varies. Some of the trails are shortcuts, and they don't get used very often. The larger loop, which this will provide it gets fairly heavy use based on the way the leaves are trampled, and the folks that I run into when I'm out there doing maintenance. So there certainly is usage. The Trails Committee is hoping to make the public knowledge of these a little greater, but a lot of folks have found them.
Yeah, that's awesome and good to hear. And the reason I ask is Kim and I were talking about this earlier, and we have in the commission's budget the ability to install some kind of educational signs. You may be familiar with the vernal pool one over off of Chamberlain Street.
Yep.
So we were thinking that perhaps this would be a good location to put an informational sign in similar to the vernal pool, but more kind of geared towards wetland resource areas. So the thinking is, number one, is there enough traffic here to justify it? And it sounds like there is from what we heard. And number two, if the commission were to have Fossil Industries put the sign together, is it something that we could, with the Trails Committee, have that installed at some point, on this new loop? Is that something you'd be amenable to?
I'm sure that both the Trails Committee and HALT and SVT would, and the OSPC also has jurisdiction in the area, that they would all be happy with that. Now, whether this new loop is the best place to place an interpretive sign could be a question. There's a lot of really interesting features adjacent to the wetlands along this trail system, but that's something we could look at, and there can certainly be more than one sign.
Yeah, that'd be great. So let's I'm looking at some of these other locations, like between 39 and 12, that kind of green trail section there abuts a wetland too. I don't know if that's more traveled because it's
that particular area. That trail has had to been relocated slightly because of a brand new beaver pond, really extensive pond. And there is a lodge along that pond and a substantial dam that they created just this late summer. The dam went up in about less than a month, and it's flooded a very substantial area.
do that, you and Kim, and then we can get another commissioner or so involved as well. But that all sounds great. So let me open up to questions, comments from commission members. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's always a good thing to add new trails to town. So, it's something that the commission is always looking.
Jeff?
Yep, go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Chuck, for all that work and everything else there. we were talking about the trailhead, I'll call it at 40. I think 11 and 21 are probably more used. Chuck, what do you think? The more people coming in at the Mary Pratt sign
Yeah,
at the parking
yes.
lot.
Yep,
right?
that's well used. Yep.
So those would be good places for it, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Yeah, there certainly are, there's an area there where the beavers have a little cross path between two wetlands right across the trail, which is sort of an interesting spot.
That's where the Beaver Society has their meetings, right?
Yeah, this is a great addition to a really good network of trails off of Fruit Street. So I'm out there all the time and definitely looking forward to some new terrain to navigate here.
Cool. Okay, questions, comments from the audience?
Jeff?
Yes, Ed.
This is Ed. Yeah, so I'm not sure how I'm looking in here because I'm doing this on my phone because my computer died. I just want to make one comment. Your comment about we always need more trails. And I'm not really sure that's true. I mean, if we keep putting trails everywhere, eventually there's no place that there's no trails. So I think there's a happy medium. That's my piece. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Okay. So it doesn't look like there's any other comments. And this is an exemption request, so we don't have to vote on it. So we'll, I think you're good to go, Mr. Daushi. Thank you. And, let's connect, have you and Kim connect offline on the interpretive sign.
Okay, thanks to the commission for their time.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Good.
Okay, so let's move to the new hearings. And just for folks who are on the call, we have a number of continuations. So Kim has that up on the screen. So if you're here for one or more of those hearings, they are continued out until January 23rd. With the exception of Woodbury to Aaron's Way, that's continued out to February 6th. So just take a note of that. But moving along to the new hearings, Hopkinton Historical Society, 168 Hayden Row. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by the Hopkinton Historical Society to replace a failed footing drain. The location is 168 Hayden Row, Assessor's Map U23, Block 17, Lot 0. All right. We have someone from the Historical Society on the call.
Through the chair.
Yep, Anna, go ahead.
My chat just popped up that Dan McIntyre left, so I don't know if he's waiting to come back in, if he did that by accident.
Yeah, there's no one in the waiting room. Okay. Kim, did you want to kind of walk us through the project, what's being proposed in your comments on what the plan is here? And
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the Hopkinton Historical Society building off of Hayden Row. The proposed project is the replacement of a failed footing drain and the addition of gutters to the building. So you can see here is the limit of the excavation associated with the replacement of the foundation drain. As it stands right now, I believe there's 2 pumps that pump the foundation drain out to a manhole connection in Hayden Row Street. The proposal is to replace the entirety of the footing drain and add gutters such that half of the discharge from the footing drain, which is currently being pumped to Hayden Row, will be redirected to the back of the property, which is the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. And the newly installed gutters will also discharge to that point as well. The applicant does have, or rather the DPW did provide some commentary that they will allow a modification to the existing permit to discharge to the town's MS4 system. So I anticipate no issues there. I went out to the site to do an inspection. I agreed with the wetland delineation line. The applicant's proposing 1,800 square feet of new disturbance within 0 to 50 feet of the wetland buffer, which is this yellow line here. So you can see that for construction purposes, construction equipment needs some room to be able to move dirt and soil around. And so that's what that kind of temporary disturbance is associated with in that 50-foot no disturb area. And they're also proposing 400 square feet of new disturbance within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. Applicant is proposing to restore the area that was temporarily disturbed for construction. You can see the PIBs here are large stones. And then the applicant is also proposing medallions. So the restoration would be conservation seed mix, and then I believe it was 6 shrubs. So my comments, the first one in regards to erosion and sedimentation control, just wanted the applicant to specify at least maybe something on the plans regarding the maximum allowable size of the stockpile, just to make sure that the stockpile didn't end up overwhelming or overtopping the erosion controls in this location. And then I also requested that the applicant provide additional kind of backup dewatering. The applicants proposed a dewatering sump, which is great, but based on the site topography, the nature of the work, and depending on when the time of the year that the work takes place, the dewatering sump may not infiltrate quickly enough to facilitate work in the excavation or at all. So I've asked the applicant to kind of put in a backup plan just so that the contractor is aware of the requirements and, doesn't just dump a hose in the catch basin. And then my other comment would be that just wanted to note that, I am dangerous, but I'm not an engineer, so I was not able to review the calculations that support the sizing for the splash pad, which accepts the footing drain runoff and the gutter runoff. And lastly, when I went out to take a look at the site, I did note that the buffer zone is vegetated primarily with invasive species. So it was multiflora rose, oriental bittersweet. I think whatever is there will aggressively come back. So I'm not sure how productive 6 shrubs will be without any kind of invasive species management in that area. That being said, I recognize that the limitations of this group in particular, monetary and also the physical limitations may limit the amount of invasive species work that can be done. So that's something that the commission will need to discuss as well. And then I just also requested a construction schedule because that will kind of play into stockpiling, how long will things be stockpiled, and then seasonality of dewatering.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim.
Dan McIntyre, I was able to get on. I keep getting the unstable internet connection message, so I wasn't able to get on earlier. But thank you, Kim, for explaining that. That was good. I can address some of those questions if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great, Mr. McIntyre. Thank you.
All right. With respect to the temporary stockpiles, that is, you'll see a number of stockpiles around the site. Even with all those stockpiles, there's not enough area to, completely excavate around the building and replace the footing drain all at once. So in our discussions with the contractors bidding on this job, we discussed doing it in kind of piecemeal, probably about 30 feet at a time, where we would excavate the foundation, stockpile in those areas closest to the excavation, and then backfill and move on. So we did specify an erosion control that has both the compost tube socks with a silt fence backup, because we do expect that the stockpile is going to be right next to the erosion controls, and we didn't want them overtopped. But we can certainly add a note to control the height of those stockpiles as they're doing the work.
Okay.
There's the backyard there. You saw some of the invasive species there. We did have some discussions with the society members, and they're willing to do some control of that after the work is complete. All of that area there will be disrupted by the contractor, because those are our stockpile areas.
Mhm.
So they'll be removing the bulk of those invasive species in that location. And then the society members will just have to kind of control it as it grows back in, do some annual inspections and some pulling as a Roundup spraying on the stems to try to control it, would be our approach to that.
Okay, so will the contractor, when they remove the invasives as part of the project, Mr. McIntyre, will they be taken off site? Can we have
Well,
that specified?
That's a good question. Whether you want.
I'm thinking like, throw it in a dumpster or something and have it removed.
What? Jeff, what are the rules on that? It has to be bagged, but I thought only certain facilities can take it. Ed might know more. There's rules for outside disposal, I think.
I'm not sure if there's any rules about disposal of invasives, but Kim and Joe, you guys really are kind of the experts on this. I think just burying it on site isn't going to solve the problem, right? That they'll just come back if we do that.
Yeah, Jeff, a lot of times in my experience with these invasive species, if you're going to take them off site, there's typically protocols depending on the species you're dealing with for how you dispose of them.
Okay.
So be helpful to understand what the species are out on site and what the plan is to manage them. But in some cases, despite the potential of them growing back, it's better to keep them on site where you're not, distributing them along the roadway as you try to dispose of them if it's not done properly.
Okay.
Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, burying can be effective if it's done deeply. I think they recommend like 6 feet deep or so. If some of the invasives are buried that deep, that can effectively prevent them from regrowing.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you cover it with like some type of barrier, Joe?
I don't think that's necessary. I would double check on that to be sure, but I think just the depth is the important factor.
Okay, that's news to me. But so yeah, I guess if you so long as it's at the appropriate depth, Mr. McIntyre, if you want to bury it on site, it seems like that would be okay.
I think that's what we'd like to do. We're going to have the equipment out there. The soils out here tend to be fairly poor on the silty loam side and a high groundwater table. So if we go down 6 feet, it'll be taken care of, I think. And we don't
Through
run
the
the
chair?
risk of transporting it as we send it off site.
Ed,
Through
did
the
you have a
chair?
comment?
Yeah, Craig Nation has done some burying of invasives with, I think, generally positive results, but I can't speak more specifically than that. But certainly Dan could talk to Craig and find out what Craig has done.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, all right, I think that makes sense with the invasive management. So the riprap splash area, Mr. McIntyre, is Kerry Reed, the DPW director, planning on reviewing that spec, or yourself reviewing it to make sure it's adequate?
Well, I did the design calculations for the pad, so I'm very satisfied with it.
Okay. Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
this building, you know, it's not a residential building, but it's probably smaller than most residential buildings in town. So
Okay.
I'm not too concerned about the gutter flow.
Okay, and then if we can just have an approximate, construction schedule, as Kim had requested, I think that would be helpful as well.
Sure, we can provide something more formally, but for the call, the work is dependent on town meeting vote because we're using CPC funding to get this work done.
Mm-hmm.
So that won't happen until May. And the work really has to be done during the dry time of year because it plays into our whole procedure on dewatering around the foundation to try to do it in the dry time of year.
Okay.
So the plan is to do it in the summer of 24. And depending on the weather as well, if we have a real wet summer like we did last summer, it's going to affect schedule, but the plan is to do it in the summer of 24.
Okay. All right, great. Kim, did I miss anything?
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, Melissa.
Great. Were there any trees coming down, or were those shrubs just being planted to replace, shrubby vegetation?
It's mostly shrub. There is one tree that's been killed by the bittersweet that we'd like to take down. That's right on the property line. I think Kim took a picture of it. That one there.
Okay.
Before it falls down, we'd like to take it down.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions, comments from commission members? Questions or comments from the audience? Let's see.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Just one quick comment, that just a point of clarity. Are we expecting to get a formalized invasive species management plan, or at least some documentation of what the final decision is on how it's going to be managed? Whether it's buried, or if it is buried, what depths and what locations?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Together for you.
I don't think it needs to be anything complicated, just something to document what the expectation.
No, we've done them before, so we can put something together for you.
Awesome.
And I don't think we received a DEP file number yet, so I don't think we can close the hearing tonight anyways. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple loose ends that need to be kind of tightened up here, or buttoned up. So okay, Mr. McIntyre, this all sounds good. I think you have the comments from Kim and the commission.
Yep.
So we'll continue this out to, we have January 23rd and February 6th. Our next meetings. Do you have a preference?
we can do it January 23rd.
Okay. So we'll motion to continue the hearing out to January 23rd.
I'll make that motion.
And the second.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Hi.
Matt,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr.
Very much.
McIntyre. Okay, moving along, Woodbury. So this is continued, but I have to open it up and then we'll continue it out to the next meeting. So the Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 9th at 7, virtually online, to hear all persons interested in notice of intent filed by Alex Woodbury to construct an addition with associated site work. The location is 2 Aaron's Way, Assessors Map U9, Block 41, Lot B. And if I can get a motion to continue this to January 23rd.
So moved.
Oh,
Through the
excuse
chair.
me, February 6th.
Thank you.
So moved. Amended.
And a second.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Ted,
Hang on here.
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. Okay, continued hearings, Town of Hopkinton, 90 and 104 Hayden Row and 0 McDermott. This is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Joe, did you want to give us an update, please, on where we're at?
Sure. I reviewed the revised information that was submitted by the applicant. Revised ANRAD documents dated January 2nd and the revised site plan. And for the most part, I think all the issues were addressed. I had a couple of minor items that I had noted. One of the flags was not revised on the plan. That was flag label A28. There was a double label on that. I mean, it's not significant, but just it was noted as having been corrected, and it was still mislabeled. Also, I thought the commission should discuss the applicant's request as far as how to word either a condition or a fact of finding regarding potentially having the applicant come back at a later date when they had an opportunity to review the stream relative to whether it's perennial or intermittent. It is mapped as perennial. So it is presumed to be perennial unless you have the observations as required under the regulations documenting dry conditions. But with the year we've had this year being so wet, and at this time of year, we're not going to get those observations. So the applicant was looking to be able to come back after this NORAD is issued to change the determination if the observations are in fact made. And there was one other item that I had left that I thought the Conservation Commission should discuss was relative to some of the test pits that were excavated within the edge of the wetland. And I think that those are the only items that I had remaining on the comments based on the revised information that was submitted.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So, regarding the perennial versus intermittent, I think for the purposes of the ANRAD, we'll identify the stream as perennial. And then at some future point, if the applicant can overcome the presumption and provide evidence that, it's an intermittent stream, then we can address it and change that determination at a later date. But for the purposes of this, we'll assume we'll document it as perennial. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, yep. So there were some test pits that were conducted without notification to the commission. So I guess, Kim, we can address that as part of the NOI process. And to move the ANRAD along, so we can talk about what went on with the test pits and in the future, how those should be brought to the commission and permitted in the future, if that makes sense. Okay, questions, comments from commission members?
I just had one question, Jeff, on the test pit. So were they, was part of the comment is whether it's open soil and it needs to be restored in the meantime, or just whether we need to do anything later?
Good question, Melissa.
That they were done.
Yeah, I'll defer to Kim and or Joe on that.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes.
It was not a situation that, needed any immediate attention. Just making a note that those were observed. They had been backfilled. No obvious danger of erosion or anything that was viewed at the time.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, are there questions, comments from the audience? See anyone's hand up? All right. So Kim, I think we can vote on this tonight. So if I can get a motion to close and approve
Through the chair?
Yep.
Yeah, just procedurally, I see that Claire from LAC is on the line as well. Just wanted to give her a chance to contribute anything on behalf of the applicant if feels necessary.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Kim. Sorry about that, Claire. I didn't scrolling through. I didn't see you pop up, but there you are. Go ahead if you have any comments, Claire.
For the record, Claire Hogeboom with LEC Environmental Consultants representing the applicant. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity. But I think you all covered it very efficiently and concisely, so I have no additional comments.
All right, thank you. Okay, if I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of resource area delineation for 104 Hayden Row in 0 McDermott.
I'll make that motion.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, and we'll do the roll call votes. Melissa?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
You too. All right, so moving along, Echo Lake, 0 Chestnut. This is another abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. And Joe, you're up at bats again. Did you want to give us an overview?
Sure. We've had a few correspondence back and forth. I did review the most recent, there was a revised information that was submitted on January 4th, revised site plan and ANRAD documentation. I did go through that and had just a couple of minor issues at that point regarding one of the buffer zone locations in the northeast corner of the property where it was shown as an approximate buffer zone. I had thought that there were some additional flagging located off-site that the actual buffer zone could be drawn from, but that was a delineation done by others and they don't have that information available. So in that corner, the buffer zone is actually indicated as approximate based on the limit of flagging that they have. So they may, the commission may want to have a fact of finding that the area there is approximate buffer zone. As far as some revisions were then submitted today, and I did go through those, and that was the only item that was remaining. Was that corner approximate buffer zone. All the other changes in the wetland delineation have been made. The paper work has all been updated, and the plan accurately represents the delineated wetlands that we reviewed and agreed to in the field.
Okay, great, Joe. And I think the commission will heed your advice on the finding of fact with regard to that one corner as an approximate delineation. So that all sounds good. Is the applicant on the call?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas here on behalf of the applicant, and also on behalf of the applicant is Michael Z. And I would just like to reiterate what Joe said about the findings of fact, and we're more than comfortable with a finding like that in the order of resource area delineation, and also extend our gratitude for the thorough review of the sites. There were some minor flagging changes, but also some appreciable ones, and it's not lost on us that there was a considerable field effort to untangle some of these, the flagging. So we appreciate that and the responsiveness to our comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gorman. We appreciate that as well. And questions, comments from commission members? Questions or comments from the audience? So, Kim, I think there were a couple kind of administrative things that need to be cleaned up on the plans in the administrative forms. Correct?
So I believe, so we got revised plans today, but Joe did take a look at them. Joe, was that part of your review? I believe we're tied up at this point.
That's correct.
So we are actually in good shape. Yep.
Okay. All right. If I can get a motion to close and approve the ANRAD for Echo Lake 0 Chestnut Street.
Yeah, just real quick, not to.
Yes, Matt, sorry.
I believe last time this was on the agenda, we had briefly discussed whether or not those isolated vegetated wetlands would be considered isolated land subject to flooding. Has the applicant provided any calculations relative to that? And if not, I think it should be noted in our approval.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So we took a sort of first flush at looking at these isolated wetlands as potential ILSF status, whether or not they would have the water holding capacity to qualify under 10.57. Our sort of back of the napkin reaction is that because of the topography, these features will outlet a little too quickly before they have the water holding capacity, but we have not provided formal calculations to that effect. So what we would request then is a finding in the ORAD that we confirm the wetland delineations as shown, but we do not have final confirmation as to whether or not these features are isolated land subject to flooding. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's a good catch, Matt. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, as long as we noted in our decision that the approval
okay.
doesn't a determination of ILSF, I think that's fair.
All right. Good. Yep. Thanks for catching that. Okay. So I think we're ready for a vote on this. If I can get a motion to close and approve the ANRAD for Echo Lake 0 Chestnut Street.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Ed?
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
Sorry. Thanks. I think I would recommend also, I'll write up in the finding of fact that those isolated features were also not evaluated for vernal pool characteristics. So a determination has not been made in that respect as well.
Yep. We concur with that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Kim. Okay, Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I got interrupted here. I will say aye.
Okay, I didn't. I thought I heard you say aye. Thank you, Ed. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gorman.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Good evening. Okay, moving along. So Hopkins Stone and Garden has been continued out to January 23rd. Wall Street Development has been continued out to January 23rd, which brings us to Legacy Farms, 0 East Main Street, which is a continuation for another abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. And Joe, did you want to give us an update, please?
Sure, I have reviewed the most recent the revised plans and documentation, revised January 3rd. The Wetland Board report revised January 3rd, and the plan also revised January 3rd. And I had very few comments outstanding regarding this. I did meet with the Mark Arnold of Goddard Consulting on the site to review the delineation and make revisions. The plan the revised plan that's been submitted accurately represents the revisions that were made in the field. There was just one minor note. There was a sentence in the narrative that was apparently pulled possibly from another document at some point that described the wetlands on the site as containing several bordering vegetated wetlands and an enclosed upland island and one isolated wetland. Just noting that was discussed in the field. That's incorrect. I thought that language might be changed, but that didn't get done. But I don't know that it impacts the status of the ANRAD. And I did see that DEP has just issued a file number with a comment that the commission could include in findings that other resource areas may be present.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it for my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so that effluent disposal system is existing for the senior living facility over there. Kim, is that correct? Yeah.
It's actually associated with Legacy Farms.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, Roy McDowell, if I may speak to that.
Oh, hi, Mr. McDowell. Good evening.
Hi. Yes. This is one of a series of leaching fields bought from the sewer treatment plant. So basically, once effluent has completely gone through the system, it goes to various locations, this being the furthest away. And the water coming to these systems is pretty much to the level of drinking water quality.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. So questions or comments from the commission? Mark, did you want to, did you have any comment?
No, everything that Joe said was correct. The narrative that he mentioned was in our cover letter, just describing the property as a whole. So that really doesn't have relevance to the ANRAD plan, which is what the commission's approving. The comment by DEP makes sense. There is an interior intermittent stream that flows through the property, but it's interior to the BVW line, which doesn't affect the 100-foot buffer zone. So that's fine to be noted that there may be interior resource areas to the wetland that aren't delineated. That's fine because it doesn't affect the buffer zone itself. So otherwise, nothing else to add.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Okay, so I don't think there are any questions or comments from the audience. It looks like we're in good shape with this, with the exception of the fact that we don't have the DEP file number yet. Kim, is that correct?
Nope. So we received the DEP file number today.
Oh, you did?
188-1821. Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll be able to vote on this. If I can get a motion to close and approve the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for Legacy Farms, 0 East Main Street.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, Ted. Okay, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
You too. Good night.
Very much.
Okay, Mr. McDowell, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that one's closed. All right, moving along to work session items. So 20th Century Homes, Whisper Way, continued to the 23rd. Keeley is continued out indefinitely until the spring. So that takes us to Maspinock Woods, West Elm Street. This is the condos and the request for a certificate of compliance. Kim, did you want to give us a quick update, please?
Sure. So the last time that we discussed this request for certificate of compliance, the commission was looking for information regarding invasive species management. Lucas Environmental had noted the growth of bittersweet and multiflora rose in proximity to detention basins. And we were also looking for the annual stormwater report as required by the ongoing conditions and the order of conditions. So since that time, I received an annual stormwater report inspection for this year, and we also received an invasive species control plan from a separate contractor. There were some recommendations in the annual maintenance report. So maintenance of side slopes and top areas of basin to be mowed, brush and trees removed from the side slopes, veg and brush removed from the spillway, and then installation of hoods in the catch basins. And the invasive species control plan included basically a cut and paint recommendation for invasive management. Lucas Environmental was able to review the invasive species control plan and provide some more specific commentary to kind of enhance the effectiveness of that and make it safe. The question that I have as a fault for the applicant is, were any of the operations and maintenance items that were specified and recommended in the report completed by the HOA? And is there any plans for actually doing any of the invasive species management, which is specified in the plan at any point soon?
This is Deshaun Wang from Creative Land and Water Engineering. I don't know if Amanda or Jim Solomon is on. So we did do one round of the invasive species control, and I emailed Jim the result is basically the cherry picking on all the marked invasive species, including Oriental bittersweet and the glossy buckthorn, and only few glossy buckthorns, and then multiflora rose. And so when we cut to pretty much close to the ground level, and the stumps was brush painted with a mix of the glyphosate and the triseed. So it's a little bit late, but the date when we were there was the temperature is about 40, so it was a good day to do that work. And so I did read Joe's comments. I just got that today, so we will incorporate that to spell out. There was some of the leftover with some of the other plan for spray, but for this site, those three species, there's no need for spray. So we would just take it out and leave the cut and the paint brush application on it, and then add the pet control license, the pet control contract to do the work. So that's not an issue. So it's mainly to update that for the future homeowner association to carry on. So we did, and actually when we were doing there was one of the board member was there. We explained to them. So I guess it's going to what is the best way, because it's not really in the order of conditions. When this is closed, it's more of kind of voluntary, but it's a good deed work or control for them, and it's good function ecological for the community, and also for the proper function of the stormwater management basin. So,
Okay, that sounds good. So if we can get a copy of that report for the work that was previously done, and then I think it would make sense for the applicant to formally send a copy of this on the cover letter to the homeowners association so that they are aware of, what is needed going forward to manage the invasive species. That would be great. So that's on record. And then Kim, can you just scroll down on the letter here? Was this, okay. Keep going, please. Maybe, was there another document that you had up, the annual? Yeah, okay. You can scroll. Okay, yeah, right there. Hold on. Install. So the last bullet item there, G&H recommends the Eliminator hood as an alternate if the LeBaron snout hoods are unavailable. What are the LeBaron snout hoods? Are those like standard? I've never heard of that before.
the snow, it's like in more like a green color, it's very commonly used. So it's just a brand name.
Okay. I thought for a second there when I saw it earlier, quickly, it was maybe named after LeBron James. There's a catchphrase I named after him.
It's probably older than him.
But it was LeBaron, not LeBron. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. So Kim, anything else we need to kind of?
Yeah, just for me to, I will email Kim. If Jim has not forwarded to you, it's an email report, but with the photos of what we did, I can email you. And then we will coming up a cover letter with the updated invasive species control plan, incorporate Joe's comments, and we'll send it to the homeowner association, CC to the commission, so you have a record as far as how this thing is better implemented. That's up to the homeowner association and the commission to. I think it will be, if they keep doing it, it's not that much work. But if you let it go wild, that's the concern, So right now it's not too bad. I mean, so we will write up in the, a cover letter trying to promote a good deed and effective.
Yeah, if you can kind of highlight that in the cover letter, Mr. Wang, that going forward, if it's maintained on a regular basis.
If they can do annually, it's probably will keep it in bay and it's not going to be a bigger concern. But if they let them go for like 5-6 years, then by that time it's very difficult to control. Problem. Yeah, it's going to kill the native plants we planted there. That's more of probably be a selling point. So for the
okay. All right, that all sounds great. Thank you. Kim was.
Yep. So my only other question would be, does the commission want to see at least the maintenance on the stormwater infrastructure, the mowing, and the removal of the woody vegetation take place prior to the issuance of the COC? I mean, we are in winter, so it's a little bit tougher at this point.
Again, we already completed, as I said, so it was done January 4th. So the work was completed.
Oh, okay. I thought that was just the invasive. Okay. Yeah, so if that work was completed, then just the documentation.
They molded the basin, and in my report and photo, I have all that. So, but I emailed because it's just so much things going on, and I asked Jim to. I think I have your email now. I will definitely. So let me see if I can even forward to you now as a quick. see if I can get it up. So see if I can get your email.
Yeah, you don't have to forward it now, Mr. Wang, but if you can just get that to Kim, that
Yeah,
would be great.
I will. I let you know. Yeah, it's just what since it's all completed.
Okay, great. All right, so I think, if we just get that, a couple more things to button up before we can issue the COC, but I think we're almost at the finish line on this one. Were there questions or comments from the commission? I'm sorry.
One quick question.
Yes, Matt.
About the hoods and the catch basins. Is that something that was included in the original order that those were required, or is this purely just G&H making a recommendation after the fact? Because if it was a condition, I'd expect we'd want, or at least me personally, I'd like to see them installed.
Oops. Hi, Deshaun.
Amanda?
Yep,
Okay,
this is Amanda with Carrier and Howland. Those hoods were on the design plans in the original approved design plan. So when we did our inspection, we noted that they weren't installed. So did want to get those installed.
Yeah, so that's a great catch again, Matt. Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to have those installed before we issue the COC. And I'm looking at the bullet up top. Hoods were missing in all inspected catch basins. Yep, right there. Thanks, Kim. So yeah, Mr. Wang, that would need to be taken care of as well.
Yes,
I think that's a little bit of a heavier lift than
right. Yeah, I will pass that. I saw they know this. I'm not sure, but I will double check if they get to do it. And so it may not, because they still have to purchase it. I don't know how many. I'm not sure how many. So Amanda, do we have a number of this? How many?
I don't have a count in front of me right now.
Okay.
But it was all the catch basins, so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. No. Yeah. I was not on that, but I saw Bob Tersha and Jim would take care of that part. I haven't heard. I think Bob is out of town on vacation, so I haven't heard what is the status on that issue. But I will make my notes, and I will quickly send a quick memo to the applicant, and so they are aware of what we need to complete.
The other pet peeve item I see in that list for me, Jeff, is the silt fence still in place?
Yeah, that need to be removed. I remind them that. So on January 4th, I did ask them. I say, well, you will do that. Yes, they say they will do it, but I haven't get chance to confirm if that's done. So that part, I did mention that part because I saw that in the field when I was doing the invasive species control monitoring. So I would double check on that too. That's a good.
Yeah, and then there's also Mr. Wang, there's the single home. So Kim, that single home that was installed, kind of outside of the development, was that under a separate NOI or was that wrapped into this? That was separate, correct?
That is a separate order, and I believe the commission already approved and closed it. But we did also get the erosion controls pulled. There was a sticking point, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good catch, Melissa, because we don't like the erosion controls hanging out there for years, on end after the project's done. So those need to be removed as well. Okay, so if you can include that as well, Mr. Wang, in your notes to the applicant.
Will do. Yeah, no, that's definitely need to follow up, and I will make it that will say those things have to be done before the COC can be issued. So that will put some leverage for them to move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. All right. And then that moves us along to the public forum request, Kim, and there was the draft stormwater regs you wanted to talk about briefly.
Yes, I did. I put some resources into the meeting documents, but basically the planning board is planning to update their stormwater bylaw regulations to update the precipitation data. Mass DEP, if you have not heard, right before Christmas, issued a draft copy of their proposed updates to the WPA regulations. And one of the major items that they're planning or attempting to update is the precipitation data. So Mass DEP is proposing to use the NOAA Atlas 14 with a scaling to 90% of the upper confidence interval, which I understand is the equivalent of NOAA plus. The proposal for the local regulations is going to be to update it to the NOAA plus. The planning board opened the discussion last night, but didn't make very much progress. So myself, mostly John, myself, and Carrie are kind of still working on tweaking the exact language. But that's the way that we are moving currently. Obviously, we want to be at a minimum consistent with the state's regulations. If anybody has any comments, and related to the stormwater regs, definitely send them to me. I can get them to the planning board, or I would encourage you to get to the planning board meeting. They'll have another hearing at their next meeting, which will be February 5th. And in terms of the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and updates, certainly, if you have commentary on that as well, I think our first line of defense will be to aggregate with MACC, Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, and see if we can kind of loop in with them. We're definitely more powerful when we connect with other municipalities. But there is a open comment period for those regulations, as well as public forums and public hearing. So questions and comments?
Yeah, so Matt, I think in your email had mentioned regarding the stormwater regs, whether, as a commission, we wanted to submit comments to the DEP. And I think we would, if we want to aggregate comments, and I think it would probably be Melissa and Matt, who are the experts really in the stormwater, who would have the comments, that we send those to MAC as well. Kim, correct? Because you anticipate that they'll be putting a response together.
I do, yeah. You can send them to me, and then I'll send them to MACC. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Is the planning board just focused on rainfall updates for the stormwater regs, or are they looking at the whole thing for any updates?
Right now, in the immediate future, they are looking at just the rainfall updates. We are also working with Ty and Bond to look at the entirety of the regulations as well to give it an update. But right now, at this moment, I kind of had a conversation with John, and John agreed that we need to get in line with the state, and we need to take a step forward immediately based on what we're seeing in the field with new developments. So this is the result of that, just kind of putting forth right now a regulation that gets that update, going for steps forward rather than perfection. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because the updates through the state will probably take, I don't know, a year. Before
here in Hopkinton, we want to be ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, it does make sense to wait for them because it's going to be a while. But
and a year might be generous, Melissa.
True. But in this wording that they have right here, I don't know if they talked about this last night, but they refer to the 24-hour rainfall taken from NOAA Atlas 14, but then the last sentence, the board may also require the NOAA Plus. I don't know what they do now because that looks like it's not a change that they may also require. I don't know how you justify when you require it and when you don't versus just saying the board requires NOAA Plus.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be changed too. The board requires NOAA Plus, or it may be worded. I think the question right now is how exactly are we going to word it? Are we going to say NOA at the 90% confidence interval, or we can just say NOA plus basically? But I think that language is going to be a little bit more clear and just say, this is what we're using. I know right now in practice, the planning board requires the Cornell. So that would be a big, upgrade and update.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second what Melissa just was saying about clarifying that entire paragraph to make it crystal clear to applicants what the expectation is. And you may be able to cherry pick some language from DEP, honestly.
We might. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Anything else from any of the commission members?
Jeff, I have something quick, I think.
Yes, go ahead, Ted.
As the Concom rep to Zach, I'm the chair of the Zoning Advisory Committee. This has little to do, I think, directly with our Conservation Commission work, but we're all residents of Hopkinton. I am urging everybody to become familiar with the MBTA Communities Act that we are working on right now. Last night's planning board meeting was the first planning board meeting to take up what we're working on. I don't think I want to take our meeting time right now to explain very much, but it will be a town meeting item that will require a zoning overlay to allow for dense housing development in town. And I think that there's going to be quite a bit of knee-jerk negative reaction if that's all people know. If anyone has any questions, please get in touch with me or John Gelsich. He will be able to get much more in the nitty-gritty than I. But it'll be important for Hopkinton residents to go to town meeting understanding all the discussions that have happened. I urge you to watch last night's planning board meeting on HCAM, look for the next planning board meeting, and just be informed and ask questions to get in, and urge your neighbors to do the same.
Yeah, that's great, Ted, and good advice. There's a lot of misinformation going on around town about this. And the more educated that folks get about what it is, because it's not as bad as it appears to be.
I think at first blush, it looks very scary, especially on top of all the growth we've had the last 5 years.
Yeah,
I think if you take your time to really understand it, it's nowhere near as scary as it seems first blush.
Right. Yep. So good advice. Thank you.
Yep.
Just Kim, one quick thing before we adjourn. So Grasshopper Energy, did they retract their request for the fee amendment, or because I didn't see that on the agenda?
They haven't retracted it, but I had a conversation with the applicant and let him know that the discussion is not a public hearing, and that he's welcome to, contact me and get on the agenda whenever he is ready with updated materials. So I didn't want to just keep holding it on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I just want to make sure that, and I'm not sure how we monitor this, but that there's no going out there and cutting and pruning and then coming to us saying, oops, I guess we should have came before the commission. So I don't know if that's something that, if you can message to them that, the commission expects that there will be no work done in buffer zones, until it comes before us, if you haven't already messaged that to them to date. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have also possibly added it to my observation rotation at this point. So,
yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
Do we have photos at this point as to what things look like so that we have evidence if something happens?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, sorry, through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Tonight is going to be rough in terms of flooding, erosion, and sedimentation control. So I'll be out and about tomorrow morning. If you see something, feel free to call me. Obviously, you know, I'm looking for wetlands and stuff, but if you do see something DPW related, I can always pass a message along to those folks as well. So.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
One quick question to Ted on the MBTA topic. Has the committee taken into consideration potentially including in the overlay the existing multifamily homes and whether or not that would count towards the requirement?
Yes, nothing we have in Hopkinton would count toward the requirement right now.
Okay.
But yes, we did consider that.
Thanks.
Sure.
All right. And thanks for all your hard work, and Zach, Ted.
Welcome.
With regard to that and other things. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Ed?
Hey.
Jim?
Ted says, I am glad to see Ted in his house still.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
I second that.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim, you were an aye, correct?
Aye, yes, correct.
And I'm an aye. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good rest of the week.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Good night. Bye.